All righty, and we're back for another episode, episode number 21. This week, there's been quite a bit of stuff going on with the Big 12 Media Days, big recruiting weekend for the Sooners, and honestly, big recruiting weekend in general for a bunch of commits or recruits that have been committing. But this weekend is a huge step for the Sooners in the 2022 and 2023 classes. If you hadn't already, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We really appreciate it. We've been growing tremendously in the past few weeks, and we really appreciate all the support and the comments and the criticism that you guys have been giving us. We're taking that in consideration and keep it coming our way, and we'll keep the content coming your way. And so this episode, we've got the recruits Caden Helms, Trayon Webb, Malachi Nelson. They're all committing between Saturday and Sunday. We're going to talk a little bit about the horns down rule with Texas and the Big 12 kind of being soft. And then we're going to roll into talking about the OU basketball non-conference schedule that was released today, and some big games to watch for, and what we kind of thought about the release and what we could see out of Porter Moser. So we'll get into it. First, in the 2022 class, we'll talk about Caden Helms. We've talked about him a couple times in some previous podcasts that this is one that you have to keep your eyes on, but we didn't know when the commitment was coming, and he finally announced not too long ago that he's going to be committing on the 17th. So that's this Saturday. If for anyone that doesn't know, he's a 6'5", 222-pound tight end, four-star tight end in the 2022 class. Out of Bellevue, Nebraska. He's number 383 overall and the number 15 tight end in the class. Basically, it's come down to OU and North Carolina. For a while there, I think Arizona State was in this recruiting, but Arizona State's kind of gotten some hot water with some recruiting potential violations. And I think when that popped up, I think they just kind of lost steam with Helms, and not that he would have chose Arizona State if that wouldn't have happened. But yeah, so he's supposed to be committing on Saturday the 17th at 6:20 Central. It's going to be live on a local news station in Nebraska, so we're not going to see it live. I'm sure we'll see it on Twitter afterwards. But definitely a hard OU lean, and probably someone who could commit. Jose, do you have anything to add? What you like about him, and if he were to commit to the Sooners?
Yeah, from watching his tape,
Jose,
the guy's got some pretty good feet in regards to moving. He can shift around, especially for how big he is. You'd kind of expect him to just be running in straight lines, really, but he's got some decent route running for being so young. At this point, I think looking at him and watching his tape, he looks kind of like not to say that he's going to be Travis Kelce, but that kind of tight end. He's very athletic, more so a receiver than he's a blocker, but he can block. It just at that point, again, like we've said it with offensive linemen, making sure that they have the strength that will transfer over to the college level. And by the time he gets to college, he might have that strength. He's still growing. He's only 17. So we'll see how his build develops over the next couple of years, and once he gets to hopefully OU. But yeah, he's definitely going to be a weapon once he gets to whatever school he decides to commit to.
Yeah, Jose, your microphone was messing up a little bit, so I don't know if that's going to keep going that way, but I'm sure not everyone wants to hear that.
Figure that
Yeah.
out.
So, Brandon, do you have anything to add with him?
Yeah, definitely. Going back to what Hose kind of said, yeah, he definitely moves well. Big frame, like you mentioned. Exciting, especially if you think about, we talked about it briefly here before, and a little bit offline about a potential 2 tight end set. If Oklahoma is to land this kid, and then you land Luke Haas, who's like the best tight end in his class, that could be a nasty 2 tight end set for a long time. 2 huge bodies that could score in the red zone and make plays all around the field. I think it'd be a really good get. Good to keep an eye on. I hope it happens for us.
Yeah, and I think already the Sooners have one tight end committed. He's from Aledo, Texas, I believe. Is it Jason Llewellyn? Yeah. So he's committed. So that'll be 2 tight ends, and then obviously Luke Haas in 2023. I think the tight end room is going to be looking pretty strong over the next couple of years, and I would like to think that the Sooners will land Luke Haas as well. But so definitely a kid that's he's not rated quite as high, but the ball skills and the body control and the athletic ability is definitely there. I mean, he's 6'5", 222. I'd imagine they're going to beef him up to 240, probably keep his same speed and everything else and become little more of a blocker, that could at least chip or add a little bit at the line, and he'd fit right in because Stogner blocks some. And I kind of think that's what the Sooners want to see out of a starting tight end. So that'll be pretty good. I think we can all say we're committing, or we're expecting him to commit to the Sooners. And if he doesn't, it would be a shock. And with him, that should put the Sooners, obviously Texas has jumped Oklahoma in the 2022 rankings according to 247 Sports for the 2022 class. The Sooners sit at number 6 right now. Austin Jordan committed to the Longhorns, which the longest time thought he was going to be a Sooner, but that's the way it goes sometimes. But I believe with Helms committing, it at least bump up to 5, maybe even to 4. I'm not 100% sure with his commitment. So we'll see. But you guys have anything, last thoughts on him, or can we move on? All right. All right. So the next group, obviously the 2023 class, there are no current commitments, but I think we're expecting that to change after this weekend. And I think the Sooners are going to get off to a great start. And we'll talk about Trayon Webb. And he's a 6 foot, 188 pound, 4-star athlete. The Sooners are recruiting him at the running back position. Number 46 overall and the number 4 athlete out of Jacksonville, Florida. Tremendous athlete, tremendous prospect. He's been between Oklahoma, Georgia, Ohio State, and he's committing on CBS Sports HQ on Saturday at 2 p.m. Central. So, I mean, if people get the CBS Sports HQ, be sure to check out. I'm sure it's going to be on Twitter and other things like that, but it's going to be a live commitment that everyone can watch if you have access to that. Brandon, do you have any thoughts on him and what he could potentially bring in the Sooners if he does commit to him?
No, yeah, if he commits, I mean, it's real exciting. If you look at that running back room of what is already committed or planning, you got Raleek Brown and Gavin Sawchuk, who are 2 top 10 backs of their class, and then you add another freak athlete at that position. We're either going to have the most tremendously talented trio of running backs, or we're going to have to Raleek's have to play somewhere in the slot, or maybe Trayon will play somewhere outside. But I mean, it's so good to have this many talented guys that can run, catch, do all sorts of things with the football, and especially in a Lincoln Riley offense. I mean, how cool would it be if we ran some sort of, it wouldn't be a Heisman package because all 3 of these guys likely won't win. All 3 of them won't win a Heisman. Maybe one of them will. But if Lincoln can put something together, if you got all 3 of those guys on the field at the same time, or something crazy just with their athleticism and talent, it's exciting. It's exciting stuff.
Definitely. Jose, do you have anything to add with that?
Yeah, hopefully my mic works better this time. But so Raleek Brown, and from what Brandon was saying, he recently posted something on Twitter and it looks like he will more than likely be playing wide receiver once he gets to Oklahoma. But he might be kind of a gadget guy like Tyreek Hill is in the NFL at this point. But going back to the recruit at Trayon Webb, he's got blazing speed. Like Brandon said, the guy is super fast, moves around. The one thing that was impressive to me watching his highlights on 247, he's 16 years old and he's not afraid to take a hit to make sure he gets those extra 2 or 3 yards when he's making a run. He's not just trying to dodge the tackle. If he has to put his shoulder down and get through the guy, he's going to. And the reason it's so impressive is he's only 15, 16 years old when the season's going. So he's playing against older, heavier, stronger guys, and he's not, he's going to take the hit. He's not going to try to avoid it. Obviously, he's got the agility to do so if he has to, but he'll run through someone if it is absolutely necessary. And it's fun to watch. I think personally, I'd rather see some guy get trucked than see someone get their ankles broken. But that's just a preference.
Yeah. No, and I think we were talking about it before the show. We were talking about how crazy it was. We saw something that he actually started for varsity in the playoffs, in the quarterfinal of the playoffs, as an 8th grader, which I'm trying to think, you're what, 14 years old as an eighth grader, 14.
You're 12. You're 12 and turn 13, I think, or 13. Turn
No,
14 in eighth grade.
because I turned 16 as a sophomore.
So then
Yeah.
you started at 15. So yeah, ends at
Yeah.
14. Ends at
Yeah.
something like that.
Either way, it's
Either
like
way,
He was a
yeah.
kid
all
compared to
playing
who he's
17,
playing.
18-year-olds
Yeah.
in a starting game, and probably playing really well at a high level.
Well, yeah, he ran for over 100 yards. I mean, that's just crazy playoff environment. I mean, I don't care what, class of high school you're playing at. That's impressive. But going back to Raleek Brown, and I know we're going off topic, but, with the Sooners losing a couple commits with, Hudson and then Shetron to Oklahoma State, they're struggling a little bit. I would say struggling. I mean, gosh, they've got the number one wide receiver committed to them right now, but I think Raleek Brown, they're going to treat him more as a wide receiver to fill that second role. I know they're trying to get a third kid to commit as far as a wide receiver, but I think Raleek Brown, like you said, Brandon, I think he's going to be playing quite a bit of wide receiver for the Sooners and will fill that scholarship.
If you look at everything, like you said, you mentioned the number one receiver in Burden from St. Louis. If we get Brandon Ennis too, Luke Haas, if Trayon Webb does end up committing, we'll have Brandon Ennis, Luther Burden. Those are two, I believe, top 5 in their class at receiver. I know Burden's number 1. Then you have those 3 running back, receiver, whatever, just hybrid guys at running back outside of Sawchuk. I think Sawchuk's pretty much he's a running back alone, right? But either way, and with Haas at the number 1 tight end, that offense, we've seen some scary offenses. CD Brown or CD Lamb, Marquise Brown, Mark Andrews, all on the same line or same offense. It's almost like we have potential now to top that with some of these kids that we're talking about potentially coming.
Yeah, and I'll say I think the Sooners might end up taking a third running back or, second. It depends on how you look at Raleek Brown. But Javante Barnes, no one can forget about him. And he hasn't announced his commitment date or anything like that. But I know it's between the Sooners and the Crimson Tide. So
Dark horse Ruben Owens.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Ruben Owens. I think he's going to be a Longhorn. He's going back to Texas, visiting them, I think, on July 31st. They're hosting a big recruiting event. I don't think the Sooners are going to – I don't think Owens is going to be it. But crazier things have happened. But either way, they'll be taken care of. I know there was one point they were struggling to get running backs. They lost Jace McClellan and Kamar Wheaton back-to-back years to Alabama. I think finally DeMarco Murray's turned that corner. But so do you guys have any final thoughts before we move on to probably the crown jewel of the 2023 class? No. So obviously I think everyone has heard of this kid, but Malachi Nelson, 6'3", 180-pound 5-star quarterback in the 2023 class out of Los Emilitos, California. Number 5 overall prospect, just an absolute stud. Basically, it's kind of come down to USC and Oklahoma. For the longest time, USC led. USC told them that they were only going to offer him, and it was true for a while. And Malachi didn't commit to him immediately, and they ended up lying and offering someone else. So Malachi decided to move on, and his move on is most likely with the Sooners. He's committing on Sunday the 18th at 5 p.m. Central on CBS Sports HQ. And so that's another kid. If you have access to that channel, tune in, because I think we're going to see some good news for the Sooners. Just another stud. It's hard to believe this run of quarterbacks that Lincoln. Granted, I know it's a long time before signing day, but Jose, what's your takeaway on Nelson?
So it's kind of hard to really say anything bad about this kid. And, quarterback, it's kind of hard to evaluate and kind of take anything away from watching film. If you're good, you're going to look great especially when you're watching high school tape. But he had a good arm. From what was on 247, a lot of it was deep bombs, he makes the right play, puts it in the pocket. He does play with another top player in Makai Lemon. So I don't know what number he wore in high school. So I don't think that all of his highlight was, just a one playing catch between him and Makai. But obviously he's the number 1 or 2 quarterback, depending on what site you're looking at for a reason. So it'll be fun to watch. It's obviously a guy that Lincoln wants to bring in to keep his quarterback streak alive for the odd number of years.
Yeah. No, Brandon, do you have anything to add with him?
Obviously super talented, super good arm strength, arm accuracy. I mean, he's got all the tools that you'd want, size, everything. And obviously playing in a Lincoln Riley system, if he were to do so. I mean, I think if you're a good quarterback like that, and you know what, you have all that potential, all that talent. I know we're obviously all biased, but honestly, why would you not go to Oklahoma? Like at this point, if you're a quarterback, if you're looking out for your long term, for your like, if I go here, what's going to happen? You might win a Heisman. You might go number 1 overall. You might, you're going to set yourself up huge. But going back to the college level, I mean, yeah, it makes a lot. I mean, Lincoln Riley is the greatest offensive mind in college football. We've seen what he's done with Baker, Kyler, Spencer, Jalen Hurts. I think, it should be a no-brainer for Malachi. And I think he would also be a really great fit for us.
Yeah. And, you talked about it just a little bit ago about the wide receivers that the Sooners could have. There's no current commits with the Sooners right now in the 2023 class, obviously. They've got a lot of momentum. Obviously, Malachi and Trayon Webb might end up being Sooners by the end of this weekend, or at least verbally committed. I do think that the Sooners most likely would take 3 wide receivers in the 2023 class. And I think the clock is going to start between Mekhi Lemon, Hale, Brandon Ennis, and there's one more I think I'm missing.
Who's the kid from
Las Vegas? There's a kid from Vegas.
I thought there was a Booker T kid from that we wanted to at receiver. Okay, he could be 2022 or 20. Besides Gentry, I know Gentry. I thought he had a teammate.
That's Micah Tease. That's Miles Tease's little brother. But yeah, all those 5-star type top wide receivers. I really think it's going to turn into a race for the race to secure your spot. I think when he pulls the trigger, there's going to be a lot of momentum that Mekhi Lemon, I would think, would jump on board pretty quick. And I wouldn't think that Brandon Ennis would be very far behind either. And Hale, and then there's one more top wide receiver, and I don't know why I can't think of his name right now. But they're going to have to commit here pretty quick. So I would think over the next month and a half, the Sooners might see a few wide receivers commit in the 2023. And Malachi committing, they might be able to convince a 2022 wide receiver to pull the trigger, kind of late, starting recruiting a little late. You've got Caleb Williams and Malachi Nelson, and you come in the middle between the two, you're going to have a good quarterback no matter which one it is when you're playing. So it's going to be interesting to see. It's obviously a very great spot for the Sooners. Crazier things have happened, but I think we all expect these 3 recruits to commit to the Sooners, and it should be a very, very productive and good weekend.
Great start, like you guys mentioned, to the 23 class if we get, both Nelson and Trayon. So fingers crossed.
Everyone's going to start hopping on here pretty quick, and we're obviously rolling on the defensive side. So they might see this, and even the defense might be like, okay, well, we got the leader for the class. And I would imagine Nelson's going to kind of pull a Spencer Rattler and a Caleb Williams, where he's committing early and is going to start recruiting both sides of the ball. So
before we move off this, for Brandon Ennis, from being on Twitter all the time, it looks like him and Webb are very good friends. So they maybe not a package deal, but I think they definitely have a little influence over each other as to where they may be going. So if Trayon does end up becoming a Sooner, I think we could see Brandon Ennis being the first wide receiver to commit after this weekend.
Oh, yeah. And it's not another wide receiver, but I was just thinking about it. So actually, the other wide receiver I was talking about from Las Vegas is Deandre Moore Jr. He's a number 3 wide receiver in the class. But another guy, this is just a little note that Richard Young, we were talking about running backs in the 2023 class, which he's the number 17th overall prospect and the number 1 running back in the class. He is planning to visit the Sooners, I believe, on the 31st of this month, on the barbecue part 2. So there might be a duo of running backs as well if somehow we can reel in Richard Young to go with Trayon Webb, which would be ridiculous.
Dude, but it's sounding scary if if all this stuff pans out.
Yeah, and also the Sooners are going to be getting a visit from a defensive lineman in Jaden Wayne as well towards the end of this month. He's the number 23 overall kid, number 7 defensive lineman in the class in 2023. So the ball and the momentum is really rolling for the Sooners coming up, and obviously July 31st is something we're going to be keeping a close eye on because barbecue part 2 and a few other schools like Texas and A&M. Texas and Texas A&M are having recruiting events that weekend. We'll see which recruits go where because that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. So other than that, we can move on unless you guys got something else to add. Okay. So obviously something that's a hot topic on social media and that's come out recently is the horns down rule, and that the Big 12 is going to start cracking down on it. And I don't know what to say anymore. I mean, I know they started this back in 2019 or whatever it was. It's just ridiculous.
I mean, feeling so hurt when Texas, as their university, we've all been to OU Texas. It literally says in their stupid song chant thing that they do, maybe they're like official school fight song. I believe it says "fuck OU" at some point in their fight song, doesn't it? Or am I making that up? Or they definitely.
No, I think the fans say it. I don't think it's officially part of their fight song, but they definitely say it.
Okay, but they're saying that, but that's totally cool. But you can't do this. That's way over the line. Their feelings are destroyed. Did you guys see what Barry Switzer told The Athletic today about it?
I think I saw something, but remind me.
So they obviously asked him, like, what do you think about this new rule or whatever? And he said it's bullshit. He goes, if you're walking down the street or something, like, it's not the exact quote, but it's paraphrasing. This is pretty much what he said. It's along the lines of this. There was like, if you're walking around or whatever and someone flips you the bird, what do? You flip them the bird back, right? If someone throws horns up at you, you throw them horns down. And he's like, no, you can't do that. That's a flag. But I mean, it's the dumbest thing of all time. Like, I don't think they should be able to throw horns up if we can't throw horns down. Pose, what do you got?
So I actually did a little bit more reading into this to see like exactly why they decided to make it an official rule this time around. So it's actually because of both orange schools in the Big 12. Oklahoma State, last year, I think it was against Texas. While their kicker was lining up for a field goal, I believe, on the big screen behind the post, they put a lot of yellow lines.
Yeah,
so it's about this. The rule is ultimately about distraction. So horns down is a distraction, is being deemed as a distraction by the Big 12. So that's why that's why the players can't do it anymore to each other or to the opposing team. But yeah.
So you're telling me, Jose, if you're a Texas wide receiver and I'm a DB at OU, right before the snap, if I do this, you're lost. You forget everything that's happening.
That is the rule. I don't know what to tell you.
It's the rule.
They kept the guy that
what's the play?
That was in the guy in the press conference kept saying probably every time something was asked about horns down or any sort of gesture or distraction. He would always say it is probably going to be a foul or a flag. So it's ultimately going to be to the discretion of the refs on the field. So I wouldn't say that every horns down is going to be something. So it's like the scenario you just said, like if a DB is coming up to the line and puts horns down, like on the first play, unlikely going to be one. But if it's like on a pick or, something to celebrate, I would assume that's when they're going to start throwing a flag for taunting and whatever it is that they're going to end up calling the flag for. And also that also means that you will know, I don't know if we've ever done it or any school's done it in the Big 12, but you will no longer see any reference to horns down or any kind of distraction or some sort of taunt for other teams because that is part of the rule now.
Yeah, I mean, Texas, it's just
we had Junior Central, whatever this.
Well, and I'm not gonna defend Texas, but I think honestly, most Texas fans really don't care. I don't know where the Big 12 is really coming with this.
It's all because of Herman. We were talking about it before. This was a Herman regime thing. And now that he's gone, maybe Sark can just be like, hey, it doesn't matter. We don't care. But the Big 12 is just cracking down
Tom Herman's also the
on it now.
grown man who was making fun of Drew Lock.
Oh, I'll never forget that.
I'll never forget.
That's totally fine, but God forbid someone do a horns down.
I believe that was the year. I don't know if Drew Lock got flagged for it, but I'm pretty sure that is the year that it started becoming a problem because Will Greer, did the same thing to fans.
Yeah,
the year before.
That's the thing that I wanted to ask you, since you said you read about it. I thought my understanding of it was like, if you do a horns down towards Texas or towards their fan base or something, that would be the taunting flag and stuff like that. Like if OU were to like get an interception or whatever, and they're running back down their sideline and they get tackled, but they're celebrating towards their sideline, looking towards OU group of people only, and then they throw horns down, that's allowed, right?
I believe so, from how the article that I read was written. Again, like the guy kept saying it's probably a flag, so as long as the players avoid going by like the Texas bench and throwing horns down or getting caught by the refs, then they should be fine. Anything towards the crowd, from what I reread, crowd, no matter who the fan is, okay, just not the players or the coaches. It's because it's supposed to ultimately be like, it can't be a distraction for the play call, the player, the offense, defense. Like it's ultimately like a distraction thing. It is a horns down is like what we're all targeting on, because it's dumb that that's even being considered as part of the rule. But it all started because Oklahoma State put a whole bunch of yellow lines on their screen while someone was taking a kick.
Well, I remember that. That's actually very distracting. That was a little bit. I kind of agree with getting rid of that garbage, but
he ended up missing the kick because of it.
So. From anything.
Yeah. I don't know. It's again, the guy kept saying probably, so we're just gonna have to see how the season rolls out, and hopefully it's not a flag that gets called all the time, and I doubt it will, but it's just gonna depend on how the refs are feeling that day. We will probably see it.
Luckily, so bad, like at the Red River game, and like it's already out of reach, and one of our guys just walks up right to the refs and the players and just does this.
Well, luckily we don't play in Austin, so at the OU Texas game, it might be called once. I wouldn't be surprised if it does get called. But anyone that goes to play at Texas is probably going to get a couple of those flags, just because the home crowd is going to sway the refs one way.
Yeah. No, can't throw up the Tyreek Hill peace signs as you're running past them or anything like that. So it's just, I don't know. I don't even think it's
fun anymore.
Yeah. But anyway, it'll still be fun beating them. And as soon as it hits 000s, we'll throw the horns down after, another Big 12 championship, the Oklahoma Invitational. That'll be about it. So we'll move on unless you guys have anything else to add to our final topic. The OU's non-conference basketball schedule has been released. Obviously, when we first started the podcast, basketball was more of a hot topic back in March and April. And obviously with the hire of Porter Moser, and if you guys haven't, if you just recently found us, that was mainly our topic. But so we're definitely going to be a basketball podcast whenever, the season gets going and whenever the football finishes and we just have basketball going into March Madness next year. But a couple big games that we saw, obviously Florida, Butler, Arkansas, Auburn. Welcome to Oklahoma, Porter Moser. I mean, that is, obviously they've got some small schools to play as well. And, but quite a lineup. Granted, I know that they're going to be playing the Myrtle Beach Invitational, so they might end up, depending on how the bracket works out, they might play another couple big schools. I hadn't looked at actually what that
There's not
tournament.
A lot of huge schools in that. Yeah, I'm looking at the bracket. Right, there's the Utah State, Davidson, East Carolina, Indiana State, Old Dominion, Penn, and New Mexico State.
Oh, okay. So maybe not quite as much. Maybe Davidson. You never know with them, obviously, but yeah, okay, maybe not quite as many, but still, those four games, that's pretty big. Obviously, Arkansas has a lot of hype. Butler is Butler. It's the team. They're not great every year, but they've been pretty good before. And Florida's good, and Auburn's good now that Bruce Pearl has them out of their postseason ban, and they're going to be locked and ready to go. Brandon, what's your takeaway with that schedule release? Anything?
Yeah, kind of like you mentioned, it's tough. Obviously, those Big Four ones. I think the Arkansas game, that's like the biggest takeaway for me, just because not only is Arkansas a good team, that should be a fun game to watch, but I love how they're doing it. I mean, I love it's fun that they're doing it in Tulsa, at the BOK Center. I guess they're trying to make that kind of like a neutral, maybe trying to make it like a neutral court type deal.
Yeah.
Really cool. Obviously, we got the Big 12 schedule, which is going to be really tough. If you can go 3-1 in those Big Four that we're talking about, or even 2-2, and then because Oklahoma State's going to be tough. Obviously, West Valley's tough. Texas is tough. That's all overall schedule, but we got to take care of business in those non-conference ones, especially in those Big Four. Got to split at least, because the other ones are very winnable. If we go 2-2 in those Big Four and kind of take care of the ones that we're supposed to win, I think overall the direction of the season will be looking pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, you have to take care of business. There's 11 games, not counting the tournament. If they win the tournament, that'd be great too. So, like you said, if they go 2-2 and maybe they drop one out of the other handful, and they could go, I don't know, 8-3. And then if they win the tournament, they might have 10-11 wins going in the Big 12 season. That would be big time. Jose, do you have anything to add?
I love how Florida and Butler are home games for Oklahoma. When Porter first got hired to be the head coach, his biggest thing was, I want the fans to get excited for Oklahoma basketball. We're not known to be a basketball school. I think the last time it was exciting was when Trae Young was around. And then other than that, you're either a hardcore U fan or a hardcore basketball fan, the reason you're really watching. But those two games, as a basketball fan, no matter what school you're rooting for, you should want to watch that, because our opponent essentially is potentially going to make a run in the NCAA tournament once that comes around. So if we, like Brandon said, if we can go 2-2, I think that I don't expect us to be competitors in the overall, at the end of the season, maybe we'll sneak into the tournament, but just because Porter's new, essentially it's a brand new team, brand new program. But if we go 2-2 there and have a decent conference turnout, then I think that the next couple of years as we start getting more players, we're going to start getting better players. Porter is instilling his culture into the team. Then we're going to be better than we were under Lon, which is obviously Lon did a great job during his stint. So it's going to be exciting to watch OU basketball in the next, 3 to 5 years and see how we turn out to be under his reign.
Definitely. So, it's exciting stuff, and that season will be here before we know it. I mean, football, I think, is like 51 days away, something like that for Sooners, and even less days for other college football, because I think Ohio State kicks off Thursday night or something like that. So it's close. I mean, we just got to get through the rest of this month and get into August, and we're there. So pretty exciting stuff. If you guys don't have anything else to add or any final thoughts, I think that's where we're going to call the show. If you made it this far, we really appreciate it. And if you hadn't already, like the video, comment on the video, let us know what you thought. Any input or any opinions that you have, let us know. We really appreciate the support, and make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 2Plane Sports. You will find it in the description. Share this video, and we'll keep this channel growing and keep bringing you guys some good content. But thanks, guys.
Horns down.